The rain hammered against the windows of Murphy's Bar and Grill in downtown Denver, creating rivulets that distorted the neon beer signs outside. Inside, the Friday night crowd was thick with construction workers, off-duty cops, and college students trying to look older than they were. The air hung heavy with the scent of grilled onions, stale beer, and testosterone. Maya Chen sat alone at the far end of the mahogany bar, nursing a club soda with lime. At 5'4" and wearing a simple grey hoodie, dark jeans, and worn sneakers, she looked like any other 20-something grabbing a quiet drink after work. Her long black hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she wore no makeup. Nothing about her suggested she was anything more than another face in the crowd. That's exactly how she liked it. "Another round for the table," bellowed Travis Morrison from across the room, his voice cutting through the din. At 6'3", with arms like tree trunks, Travis was the kind of guy who commanded attention wherever he went. His construction crew occupied the largest table in the place, celebrating the completion of a major project downtown. Empty beer bottles formed a small army across their table. Maya glanced over briefly, taking in the scene. Travis was clearly the alpha of his pack, broad shoulders straining against a flannel shirt, calloused hands gesturing wildly as he told some story that had his buddies roaring with laughter. She'd seen dozens like him before, in bars from Afghanistan to North Carolina, loud, confident, used to being the biggest guy in the room. "You see that chick over there?" Travis's voice carried despite the music. "Been sitting alone this whole time. Probably waiting for some college boy to buy her a Cosmopolitan." His crew turned to look at Maya, who kept her eyes on her drink. She could feel their stares like physical weight. "Maybe she's just not interested in drunk construction workers," suggested Danny, the youngest of the group, barely old enough to drink legally. Travis snorted. "Look at her, kid, dressed like she shops at Walmart clearance. Probably never seen a real man in her life." The comment drew more laughter from the table. Maya's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but she remained still. She'd heard worse. Much worse. "I bet I could get her number in 5 minutes," Travis continued, his voice growing louder. "Girls like that are just waiting for a guy with confidence to show them what they're missing." "Leave her alone, Travis," said Mike, an older member of the crew with graying temples. "She's just trying to drink in peace." "Peace?" Travis stood up, beer in hand. "This is America, Mike, land of opportunity, and I see an opportunity sitting right over there." Maya watched his reflection in the mirror behind the bar as he approached. 6 years in the army had taught her to assess threats without turning around. Travis walked with the swagger of someone who'd never been seriously challenged, his steps slightly unsteady from alcohol. Classic bully behavior: pick on someone smaller, preferably alone, definitely female. "Mind if I join you?" Travis didn't wait for an answer before sliding onto the stool next to her. Up close, he reeked of Budweiser and cheap cologne. "You look like you could use some company." "I'm fine, thanks," Maya replied without looking at him, her voice calm and even. "Come on, don't be like that. I'm Travis Morrison. I run the biggest construction crew in Colorado. You probably saw us on the news. We built that new office complex on Colfax Avenue. Congratulations." Maya took another sip of her club soda. Travis leaned closer, his elbow bumping into her space. "You're not very talkative, are you? That's okay. I like the mysterious type, though I gotta say, you could use some fashion advice. When's the last time you bought clothes that weren't from the discount rack?" Maya finally turned to look at him. Her dark eyes were steady, unimpressed. "Is that supposed to be a pickup line?" "Just making conversation. You seem like a nice girl, but you're not exactly putting your best foot forward, you know? A little makeup, some decent clothes, maybe a smile once in a while." "I'll keep that in mind," Maya said, turning back to her drink. Travis's confidence wavered slightly at her complete lack of interest, but alcohol and ego pushed him forward. "You're being kind of rude. You know that? I'm trying to be friendly here, and I'm trying to enjoy my drink quietly. Look, sweetheart, I don't know what your problem is, but Travis." The bartender, a stocky man named Lou, who'd been working Murphy's for 15 years, appeared before them. "Maybe give the lady some space." "We're just talking, Lou," No harm in talking, right? Maya caught Lou's eye and shook her head slightly. She could handle this herself. Travis noticed the exchange, and his face reddened. Oh, I see how it is. You think you're too good for me? Let me guess, you're holding out for some rich lawyer or doctor, right? Well, newsflash, princess. Guys like that don't go for girls who dress like they're homeless. The conversation at Travis's table had died down, his crew watching the interaction with varying degrees of discomfort. The rest of the bar was starting to notice, too. Maya set down her glass and turned to face Travis fully. "But are you done? I'm done when I say I'm done. You've been sitting here acting like you're better than everyone else, but look at you. What do you even do for work? Fold clothes at Target?" "Something like that," Maya replied, her voice remaining maddeningly calm. Travis stood up, towering over her. "You know what your problem is. You have no idea how the real world works. You've probably never had to fight for anything in your life. Everything just handed to you because you're a pretty face." Maya stood as well, and Travis realized she was smaller than he'd thought. The size difference made him feel even more powerful. "I bet you've never even been in a real fight," he continued, emboldened by his audience. "Probably call the cops if someone looks at you wrong." "Travis, that's enough." Mike had approached from the table, concern evident in his voice. "She started it with her attitude," Travis shot back. "I was being nice, and she acted like I was dirt." Maya pulled a 20 from her pocket and placed it on the bar. "Thanks for the drink, Lou." As she turned to leave, Travis grabbed her wrist. "We're not done talking." The moment his hand made contact, something shifted in Maya's posture. The change was subtle but unmistakable, like a sleeping predator suddenly becoming aware of prey. "Let go of my wrist," she said quietly. Travis tightened his grip instead. "Or what? You'll call your boyfriend?" Maya looked down at his hand, then back up at his face. "Last chance." Travis laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "What are you going to do about it, sweetheart?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a gun that hadn't fired yet. What happened next took less than 3 seconds, but to everyone watching, it seemed to unfold in slow motion. Maya's free hand moved with surgical precision. Her thumb found the pressure point between Travis's thumb and index finger, while her other fingers locked around his wrist. She applied pressure and twisted simultaneously, a technique that turned his own grip against him. Travis's face contorted as his hand opened involuntarily, releasing her wrist. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered from across the bar. Travis shook his hand, more surprised than hurt. "What the hell was that?" "Basic anatomy," Maya replied, pulling on her jacket. "You should let me leave now." But Travis's ego had been wounded in front of his crew and half the bar. He couldn't let it go. "You think you're some kind of tough girl? That was just a lucky move." "Travis, seriously, let it go," Mike pleaded, but his voice was drowned out by the murmurs of the crowd. "No way," Travis snarled. "This little princess thinks she can embarrass me? I don't think so." He reached for her again, this time going for her shoulder. Maya sidestepped effortlessly, and Travis stumbled forward, his momentum carrying him into the empty bar stool. The metal legs scraped against the floor with a harsh screech. Laughter erupted from various corners of the bar. Travis's face turned crimson. "Okay, that's it," Lou announced, emerging from behind the bar with a baseball bat. "Both of you out, now." "She started it," Travis protested, pointing at Maya. Did you see what she did to my hand?" "I saw you grab a woman who was trying to leave," Lou replied firmly. "This isn't a debate. Get out." Maya was already heading for the door, but Travis blocked her path. At 6'3", he made an imposing barrier, his broad frame filling the narrow space between tables. "We're not done," he said, his voice low and threatening. "Yes, we are." Maya's tone remained steady, but those who looked closely could see the subtle shift in her stance. Feet shoulder-width apart, weight balanced, hands loose at her sides. "You embarrassed me in front of my guys. That's not how this works." What works? Respect. You show me respect or I make you show me respect. The bar had gone quiet except for the television playing a Broncos highlight reel in the corner. Even the college kids at the dartboard had stopped their game to watch. "Move," Maya said simply. Travis crossed his arms. Make me. Maya studied him for a moment, taking in his stance, his balance, the slight sway that indicated exactly how much alcohol was in his system. 6 beers, maybe 7, based on his coordination and the flush in his cheeks, enough to slow his reflexes, but not enough to make him completely stupid. Last warning, she said. Travis laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the tin ceiling. What are you going to do? Scratch me with your fingernails? Maya moved. She stepped forward and to the right, inside Travis's reach before he could react. Her left hand shot up, palm striking the bottom of his nose. Not hard enough to break it, but sufficient to bring tears to his eyes and snap his head back. While he was still processing the impact, her right foot swept behind his left ankle just as she pushed against his chest with her right hand. Physics did the rest. Travis crashed backward into the table behind him, sending beer bottles flying and eliciting shouts from his crew. He hit the floor hard, his head connecting with the wooden chair leg with a solid thunk. The entire sequence had taken maybe 2 seconds. Holy shit, Danny breathed, staring at Maya with wide eyes. Travis groaned and rolled over, blood from his nose mixing with spilled beer on the floor. You broke my nose. No, I didn't, Maya replied matter-of-factly. If I'd broken it, you'd know. Lou was already on his phone, presumably calling the police. Several patrons had their phones out recording. Maya noticed, but didn't seem concerned. Travis, stay down, Mike advised, kneeling beside his fallen friend. Just stay down. But Travis was beyond reason now. The alcohol, the humiliation, and the throbbing in his nose had pushed him past his breaking point. He struggled to his feet, using the overturned table for support. You little bitch, he snarled, blood running down his chin. You're going to what? Maya interrupted, her voice carrying a new edge that made everyone in the bar take notice. Hit a woman? In front of all these witnesses, with the police already on their way? Travis looked around the room, suddenly aware of how many people were watching, how many phones were pointed in his direction. His reputation, his business, his entire life could be destroyed by what happened in the next few minutes. But rage has a way of drowning out logic. I don't care, he said, wiping blood from his mouth. Nobody treats me like that. Nobody. He charged forward, all technique abandoned in favor of brute force. Maya waited until the last possible second, then stepped aside like a matador, avoiding a bull. Travis's momentum carried him past her and into the front door, which he hit with enough force to rattle the glass. Enough! Lou shouted, stepping between them with his baseball bat raised. Both of you freeze! Travis turned around, his face a mask of fury and humiliation. Blood from his nose had stained his flannel shirt, and his eyes held the wild look of someone who'd completely lost control. She's not normal, he said, pointing a shaking finger at Maya. Did you see how she moved? That's not normal. Maya stood perfectly still near the door, her breathing even, not a hair out of place. She looked like she could have been waiting for a bus, rather than having just put a man twice her size on the floor. Mom, Lou said, not taking his eyes off Travis, I think you should wait outside for the police. Agreed, Maya replied, reaching for the door handle. No! Travis broke free from Mike's restraining hand. She doesn't get to just walk away. Who the hell are you? Maya paused, her hand on the door. For the first time since the confrontation began, she seemed to consider his questions seriously. Nobody's special, she said finally. Bullshit. Nobody moves like that unless they're trained. Military, police. Maya's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I used to work for the government. Doing what? The question hung in the air as sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Maya looked at Travis, then at the crowd of faces staring at her with a mixture of fear and fascination. Keeping people like you safe, she said quietly, and stepped out into the rain. Travis stared at the closing door, blood still dripping from his nose, a terrible understanding beginning to dawn in his eyes. Officer Sarah Martinez arrived at Murphy's bar 6 minutes later, her patrol car's blue and red lights painting the rain-soaked street in alternating colors. She was a 10-year veteran of the Denver Police Department, and she'd responded to her share of bar fights. Usually, they involved drunk guys throwing wild punches and breaking furniture. This call sounded different. Inside, she found Travis Morrison sitting at a table with an ice pack pressed to his nose, his construction crew hovering around him like bodyguards. The bartender Lou was wiping down surfaces that probably hadn't needed cleaning, while the other patrons pretended not to stare. "I'm Officer Martinez," she announced. "Who wants to tell me what happened?" "That woman assaulted me," Travis said immediately, pointing toward the door. "She used some kind of martial arts move on me. Look at my face." Martinez examined his nose, noting the swelling and dried blood. "Doesn't look broken. What's her name?" "I don't know. She was sitting right there at the bar. Asian girl, maybe 5'4", dark hair, wearing a grey hoodie. And where is she now?" "Outside somewhere. She left when she heard the sirens." Martinez stepped outside and spotted Maya immediately. She was leaning against a lamppost about 20 feet away, completely still, despite the rain soaking through her hoodie. Most people would have sought shelter or at least looked agitated after a confrontation. This woman looked like she was meditating. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Martinez. Can I speak with you?" Maya turned, and Martinez was struck by her eyes, dark, alert, and utterly calm. "Of course, officer. I understand there was an altercation inside. What's your name?" "Maya Chen. Can you tell me what happened?" Maya's account was precise and factual, delivered without emotion or embellishment. She described Travis's initial approach, his inappropriate comments, grabbing her wrist, and her subsequent defensive actions. She spoke like someone accustomed to giving reports. "You said defensive actions," Martinez noted. "The man inside has a bloody nose and claims you assaulted him. He grabbed me first. I used minimal force to disengage and leave. When he blocked my exit and threatened me, I neutralized the threat." Martinez raised an eyebrow. "Neutralized the threat? That's interesting phrasing. Sorry, old habits." "What kind of old habits?" Maya hesitated. "I'm former military." "What branch?" "Army." "Stationed where?" "Various places. Fort Bragg, mostly." Martinez knew Fort Bragg was home to the 82nd Airborne and Special Operations Command. "What was your MOS?" she asked, using the military term for job classification. 11 Bravo, Maya replied automatically, then caught herself. "Initially, infantry." Martinez's ex-husband had been 11B, but there was something about Maya's bearing, her language, her controlled responses, that suggested more than standard infantry training. "Let's go back inside," Martinez said. "I need to get everyone's statements." Back in the bar, Martinez interviewed several witnesses. Their accounts were remarkably consistent. Travis had approached Maya, made insulting comments, grabbed her wrist, and blocked her exit. Maya had defended herself with what multiple witnesses described as professional techniques. "She moved like she knew exactly what she was doing," said Danny from the construction crew. "It wasn't lucky or random. It was like choreographed." "Have you ever seen anything like it?" Martinez asked Lou. The bartender shook his head. 20 years in this business. I've seen plenty of fights." "That wasn't a fight. That was a demonstration." Travis had grown increasingly agitated during the interviews. "Why is everyone making her sound like some kind of expert? She's just a girl in a hoodie. A girl who put you on the floor in about 2 seconds, Mike observed quietly. "Whose side are you on?" Travis snapped. "The side that doesn't grab women who are trying to leave," Mike replied. Martinez was forming a clear picture of what had happened, but something was bothering her. Maya's responses, her posture, her vocabulary, everything pointed to more extensive training than she was admitting. "Ms. Chen," she said, "I'm going to need to see some identification." Maya reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a driver's license. As she did, her hoodie rode up slightly, revealing something that made Martinez's breath catch. There, on the back of Maya's grey sweatshirt, was a small black patch. Most people wouldn't have recognized it, but Martinez's brother was a Navy SEAL, and she'd seen enough military insignia to know what she was looking at. It was a skull and crossbones with wings, the unofficial symbol of the Army's Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the 160th SAW. The Night Stalkers. Martinez stepped closer. "Ms. Chen, can you turn around for a moment?" Maya complied, and the entire bar got their first clear look at the patch. The room went dead silent. "Holy shit," Travis whispered, all the color draining from his face. The patch was worn and faded, the kind that came from years of use rather than recent purchase. Below the main insignia were smaller patches, airborne wings, a ranger tab, and something else that Martinez couldn't quite make out in the bar's dim lighting. "You were 160th?" Martinez asked, her voice filled with new respect. Maya turned back around. "Among other things." "How long?" 8 years total service. 4 with the 160th. Travis looked confused. "What's 160th mean? What's the big deal?" Martinez ignored him, focusing on Maya. "You were a Night Stalker pilot? Crew chief? Sometimes door gunner?" The implications hit Martinez like a physical blow. The 160th SAW was the most elite aviation unit in the military, providing helicopter support for special operations missions. These were the people who flew SEAL teams into Pakistan to get bin Laden, who extracted Delta Force operatives from impossible situations, who operated in the darkest corners of America's shadow wars. "How many deployments?" Martinez asked. 7. Afghanistan, Iraq, and other places. Travis was looking back and forth between them, clearly lost. "Will someone please explain what's happening?" Martinez turned to him, her expression hard. "Mr. Morrison, you just grabbed and threatened a decorated special operations veteran, someone who spent years flying into combat zones to extract America's most elite soldiers from situations that would give you nightmares." "So what?" Travis blustered, but his voice lacked conviction now. "She's not in the army anymore. She's just some girl in a bar." Maya spoke for the first time in several minutes. "Just some girl who knows 47 different ways to kill you with her bare hands." The statement was delivered in the same calm tone she'd used to order her drink. Matter of fact, professional. Travis's face went white. "That sounds like a threat," he said weakly. "No," Maya replied. "A threat would be telling you which one I'd choose." Martinez found herself suppressing a smile. "Ms. Chen, while I appreciate your service, I need you to dial back the intimidation factor." "Sorry, officer, you're right." "Mr. Morrison," Martinez continued, "based on the witness statements and physical evidence, you were the primary aggressor in this situation. Ms. Chen acted in self-defense. I could arrest you for assault and harassment." "What? She's the one who hit me. After you grabbed her and refused to let her leave, that's false imprisonment and assault. The fact that she could have hurt you much worse and chose not to actually works in your favor." Travis looked around the room desperately but found no support. His own crew was staring at him with a mixture of embarrassment and disgust. "This is bullshit," he muttered. Martinez stepped closer to him. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to Ms. Chen. You're going to pay for any damages to the bar, and you're going to stay away from her. If I get another call about you bothering this woman, I'll arrest you for stalking and harassment. Are we clear?" Travis looked at Maya, who was watching him with those unnervingly calm eyes. For the first time, he was seeing her clearly, not as some random girl to be intimidated, but as someone who had lived through things he couldn't imagine, who had skills he couldn't comprehend. He started, then stopped. "I'm sorry, I was drunk, and I'm sorry." Maya nodded once. "Do apology accepted." Martinez was about to close her notebook when her radio crackled to life. "All units, we have a 211 in progress at First National Bank on Colfax Avenue. Suspects are armed and have taken hostages. Repeat, armed robbery with hostages." The address was only 6 blocks away. Maya's head snapped toward the radio with unmistakable interest. "Officer Martinez," she said quietly. "How many hostages?" Martinez spoke into her radio, requesting additional information. The response made everyone in the bar lean forward to listen. "Dispatch, this is Unit 47. How many suspects and hostages at the bank location?" "Unit 47, we have reports of 3 armed suspects, approximately 15 hostages, including children. SWAT has been notified, but ETA is 25 minutes. Suspects have demanded a helicopter and safe passage. They've threatened to start killing hostages if demands aren't met within 30 minutes. Maya was already moving toward the door. Officer Martinez, I need to go. Miss Chen, this is a police matter. You need to stay here. Maya paused, her hand on the door handle. Officer, with respect, I've been in situations like this before, many times. Not as a civilian. Those hostages don't care about my employment status. Martinez felt torn. Protocol demanded she keep Maya at the scene until the paperwork was complete, but the urgency in the veteran's voice was compelling. What exactly are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that I'm 2 blocks closer than any other responder. I have relevant experience, and children's lives are at stake. Travis, forgotten by everyone else, spoke up from his corner. You can't seriously be thinking about letting her go play hero. Maya turned to look at him, and Travis immediately regretted speaking. There was something different in her eyes now. Not the controlled calm from before, but something harder, more focused. 23 combat missions, she said quietly. 13 hostage rescues. 7 times we were the only thing standing between civilians and death. So no, Mr. Morrison, I'm not playing anything. Martinez made a decision that would either save lives or end her career. What do you need? A ride to the scene. And for you to trust me. 4 minutes later, Martinez's patrol car screeched to a halt 3 blocks from First National Bank. Police units were already establishing a perimeter, their red and blue lights turning the rain-soaked street into a chaotic light show. Maya could see the bank's large windows from their position, and more importantly, she could see the armed figures moving inside. Lieutenant Robert Hayes, the incident commander, was coordinating with dispatch when Martinez approached with Maya in tow. Hayes, this is Maya Chen. She's former special operations, experienced in hostage situations. Hayes looked Maya up and down, taking in her civilian clothes and small stature. Ma'am, I appreciate your service, but this is a police operation. Lieutenant, Maya said, what's your tactical assessment? The directness of her question caught Hayes off guard. 3 shooters. Unknown weapons, 15 hostages, including 4 children. They've barricaded the main entrance and covered the windows. SWAT is en route, but they'll want to establish surveillance, assess, plan and execute, which takes time you don't have. Maya finished. What about building schematics? Hayes found himself answering before he'd decided to. Well, we're pulling them now. Roof access? Maintenance ladder on the north side, but it's exposed. Maya nodded, processing the information with the speed of someone who'd done this before. Security system? Disabled, presumably by the suspects. Lieutenant, Martinez interjected, she spent 4 years with the 160th SAW. If anyone knows about quick insertions in hostile situations, it's her. Hayes's radio crackled. Command, this is surveillance. Suspects have separated the hostages into 2 groups. Adults in the main lobby, children near the vault area. 1 suspect guarding each group. 3rd suspect appears to be the leader, moving between positions. Maya closed her eyes briefly, visualizing the layout based on her memory of the bank. She'd deposited checks there dozens of times. Lieutenant, I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. I'm listening. The maintenance ladder gives access to the roof, but you're right, it's exposed. However, if I can get to the neighboring building, that coffee shop, I can cross over. Their roofs are connected. And then what? There's a skylight over the main lobby. I can provide overwatch and intelligence while your team moves into position. Absolutely not. You're a civilian. Maya's voice hardened. I'm a civilian who's done this exact thing in Kandahar, Baghdad, and places you've never heard of. Those children don't have time for protocol. Hayes looked at Martinez, who nodded slightly. Against his better judgment, he found himself considering it. Even if I agreed, which I'm not saying I am, you don't have equipment. Maya pulled out her phone and showed them an app. Encrypted comms. I can patch into your tactical frequency. And Lieutenant, I don't need much equipment for reconnaissance. A new voice cut through the radio chatter. Command, this is inside surveillance. One of the kids is crying loudly. Suspect 2 is getting agitated, waving his weapon around. The situation is deteriorating. Hayes looked at his watch. SWAT ETA is still 15 minutes. Those kids don't have 15 minutes, Maya said. Lieutenant Hayes made a decision that violated every protocol in the manual. Martinez, escort Ms. Chen to the coffee shop. Radio silence until she's in position. 5 minutes later, Maya was on the roof of the bank, having crossed from the adjacent building with movements that reminded Martinez of a hunting cat. The rain had intensified, providing cover for any sound her approach might have made. Through the skylight, Maya could see the entire main floor. 3 men in dark clothing, each carrying assault rifles. The adult hostages were zip-tied and sitting against the far wall, faces pale with terror. Near the vault area, she could see 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, ages roughly 6 to 12, with 1 adult woman who appeared to be their teacher. Maya activated her comms. Overwatch in position. I have visual on all suspects and hostages. Copy, Overwatch. Describe what you see. Suspect 1, main entrance, M4-style rifle, constantly checking the street. Nervous energy, amateur stance. Suspect 2, vault area with the children, appears to be the most agitated. AK-47, pacing. Suspect 3, central position seems to be the leader. Professional bearing, scanning all sectors. Assessment. Suspects 1 and 2 are scared kids in over their heads. Suspect 3 has training. He's the priority threat. SWAT ETA now 10 minutes. Can you maintain position? Maya was about to respond when Suspect 2 suddenly grabbed one of the children, a boy who couldn't have been older than 8. The man pressed his rifle barrel against the child's head and screamed something at the other hostages. Command, situation critical. Suspect 2 has a weapon on a child. He's losing control. Can you see the child? Affirmative. Clear sight line. Overwatch, you are reconnaissance only. Do not engage unless... Suspect 2's finger moved to his trigger. Maya didn't wait for permission. The skylight exploded inward as Maya crashed through it, landing in a controlled roll that brought her up directly behind Suspect 3. Her movement was so fast and unexpected that for a crucial second, all 3 gunmen froze in shock. That second was all she needed. Maya's hand chopped down on Suspect 3's wrist, causing him to drop his rifle. Her knee drove into his solar plexus, doubling him over. As he fell, she was already moving toward Suspect 2, who was turning his weapon away from the child to engage this new threat. The training that had kept her alive through 7 combat deployments took over. Maya covered the distance between them in 3 bounds, her body moving with a lethal grace that turned her into something more than human, a weapon perfected by years of desperate battles in distant places. She hit Suspect 2 like a guided missile. Her shoulder drove into his midsection, while her hand locked onto his rifle, angling it away from the hostages. They went down together, but Maya controlled the fall, ensuring the gunman hit the marble floor hard while she rolled clear. Suspect 1, at the main entrance, was still processing what had happened when Maya came up with Suspect 2's AK-47 in her hands. She put 3 rounds center mass before he could raise his own weapon. The entire engagement had lasted less than 15 seconds. Command, this is Overwatch. 3 suspects down, hostages secure. Say again, Overwatch. Suspects neutralized. Send medical and crisis counselors. And Lieutenant, you might want to have internal affairs standing by. 20 minutes later, Maya sat in the back of an ambulance, a paramedic treating cuts on her hands from the skylight glass. Lieutenant Hayes stood nearby, alternating between awe and anxiety about the paperwork nightmare this was going to create. The kids are okay, Maya asked. Shaken up, but unharmed. You saved their lives. We all did, Hayes shook his head. Miss Chen, I've been a cop for 18 years. I've never seen anything like what you just did. I've had good training. That was more than training. That was... He searched for the right word. That was something else entirely. Maya looked past him to where Travis Morrison stood at the police perimeter, having followed the excitement from the bar. He was staring at her with a mixture of fear and amazement, finally understanding what he'd tried to intimidate. Officer Martinez, Maya called out. Yes? I think Mr. Morrison has learned his lesson about judging people by their appearances. Martinez followed her gaze and smiled. Ma, I think you're right. As the ambulance doors closed, Maya caught one last glimpse of Travis, talking animatedly to his construction crew, probably telling them how he'd been in a bar fight with a genuine special operations veteran. The story would grow with each telling, she knew, until he'd probably claim they were best friends. Maya leaned back against the ambulance stretcher and smiled for the first time that night. Tomorrow she'd go back to her quiet civilian life, wearing her unremarkable clothes and blending into the crowd. But tonight, when it mattered, she'd been exactly who she'd always been, a guardian angel in a grey hoodie, keeping the sheep safe from the wolves. Some things never change.